Welcome to When School's Not Working. I'm Matt Barnes, and our illustrious leader, Michael Strong, is not here tonight, so we're covering for him. We have a great show and a great conversation tonight. But before we get into our conversation with Jackson, let me again introduce myself, Matt Barnes. I run an organization called The Education Game, when we help parents coach their kids on how to make sure they're learning what they need to learn for the 21st century, not necessarily what they need to learn to get an A in algebra. That's what we do. And Kath.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Catherine Fraise. I'm the founder of Workspace Education, and I also run a research and development company called 100 Roads. And, you know, we believe there are just so many different ways to get an education, and you do not have to be confined to the mainstream version. In fact, there are so many different ways, and this is what we're doing on this actual program is we're really hearing people's stories about how they educated themselves and actually did a better job than what you'd find in conventional school. In fact, according to Jackson, 10 times better. His life is 10 times better than what he would have maybe expected to have experienced in a conventional school. And, you know, we want to arm parents and viewers watching with the skills that they need to encourage them to imagine the possibilities of actually what is possible for their children, so they don't have to be confined with the conventional structures that exist today. And I'm super excited to welcome Jackson to the program.
Yes.
And we could probably just kick off with just getting a little bit of your background story, because you have an incredible story. And I, just knowing what I know about you, I've been riveted so far in the story, and I'd just love to know more. So I'm sure our viewers would too. So please kick us off with a little bit about yourself and how you even came to being on an unconventional journey to awesome, which is how I would describe your life right now.
Unconventional journey to awesome feels pretty accurate. I would say it's an unconventional journey of awesome, not necessarily too awesome. So all throughout like a lot middle school and high school, I was extremely academic and I cared a lot about my grades. I think that I had twofold, most people have. I felt like my fundamental sense of worth and like good enoughness was tied to my grades. But then I also had the belief that the grades were going to be what determines the success of my entire life. But I also, from a very young age, I kind of thought the whole thing was. So basically what happened is that then high school comes, and I had a relationship at the time with a girl, and this kind of was one of the reasons it ended up not going well. And then this is relevant. I'm going to give the briefest thing. Basically, this relationship I had, this person ended up with my like best friend of 10 years, right? So I'm not going to go into all that, but you can imagine the pain. So I just left high school, so I don't have this community of people, and that happens. That was the morning of the first day of school that I like find them together, right? So I bring this up because that like broke me, and this also sent me on a journey, not just of like, okay, I'm not going to college or whatever. It was like a complete journey of like extreme levels of personal development, like having come from like a very dysfunctional, traumatized household, and then like the two people of my life that I like love and trusted most, like suddenly I have neither of them in like a course of a couple hours. And all of that happens, and I'm 17, and I'm like, and so that kind of triggered an intense personal growth journey that caused me to, I moved to Oregon shortly after that. And then I discovered, which you guys have heard of it, something called Praxis, which I, for about 3 to 4 months, was feeling like the loneliest person in the world, because I was sitting there building my own career, trying to figure out how the hell to make money online and all this stuff. But I was by myself, and I could do it, and I did do it, but I had no friends that were in the same at all headspace to this degree that I was. And then actually my English teacher, who kind of agreed with me dropping out, she was sick, Mrs. BT. She says, hey, I think you should do this thing called Praxis. It's like college, but it's not college at all. And for those who don't know, Praxis is a group and a program that takes young entrepreneurial people like myself, and they take them and they put them through like a boot camp that basically trains you that the only thing companies care about is your ability to create value for them. And college degree is just a signal that you can create value. And if you can create another way to demonstrate that you can create value, they don't care about the degree every single time. For example, like sending someone a video explaining why you can do the job means more than a degree for most people. So it's like Praxis kind of instills that, and then Praxis puts you in a boot camp. Sorry, then Praxis actually gives you an apprenticeship with a startup that you go and you actually work and you learn real job skills. Suddenly I was in a Facebook group with like 250 other young people that were literally just like me, as intelligent as me at the time of my evaluation, and like as passionate, as free thinking, none of them going to college, many of them facing the same obstacles as me. My best friends today are my friends that I met in Praxis.
That's
like
awesome.
the people I'm going to hang out with after this call, and that was like 5 years ago. It's incredible. And so that happened. Then it's like the next semester of high school, and I come back to Arizona, and I'm moving to Austin, Texas at the time. I'm here now, this is years ago, for my business partner with Praxis. And I went ahead and I bought a Chevy Astro van, and I converted the back of it and built a bed frame and put my BMX bike on the back of it. And there's photos of this. And I drove to Austin at 17 with like $100 and in a van. And I can't believe I did that. It's crazy. It's so wild. And I had no fear. I just like, yeah, sure.
This issue of fear is something that comes up repeatedly in conversations with parents or kids about education and learning, right? There's a fear that if I get off of the conveyor belt, that something bad is going to happen. There's a fear that
something bad. It's like this very vague,
right? And so I guess what I'm sensitive to now in a way that I wasn't just even a year ago, that fear crowds out all of these incredible opportunities that are out there that you never get a chance to view if you stay in a space of fear, right?
I would say that that's true of fear in general. Yeah. And that this just shows up in college. Yeah. It's so, right. Yeah.
Keep going. Tell what happens next.
Yeah. That's so helpful. So I go to Austin, and now I was just so eager to get out of Arizona and like start living this life that I Praxis lets you really like pick your business partner, and people will go through a process. And I was so eager, I just like took the first one, and it was a sales job. And I learned it was not for me. Now Praxis is incredible. I was like, oh yeah, sounds good. So I ended up going to Austin, and here's what it was. I lived in my van, and I parked in a hotel parking lot a lot of time, and I rode my BMX. I worked downtown in the WeWork skyscraper in Austin, Texas. And I was a 17-year-old kid, but I would dress nice because it's that office. But then I would literally get in my van and ride my BMX bike in this nice clothes and then tie it to the downtown. So cool. And then I would go up in this elevator and I would do sales for this company, Vital Interaction, like cold calling. But a little more like glorified than like, it was a startup. It was a team of like 8 people. So a little more glorified than like a call center. Like it was definitely like a team of people doing this thing. But basically during that time on the weekends, I started taking my van and going out in the areas of nature around Austin. And then I was allowed to work remote. So I started just driving around. Oh, I might go there this weekend now that I'm back here. I just went and I had no GPS. I didn't use GPS. And I just drive. And I found so many little towns. West Texas is crazy. Little shops and coffee shops and little cafes where it's all locals. And like, I went to Kingston, Texas, and there was this like gorgeous Texas girl with this Texas accent. And I was like, wow. And there's so many things. And it was just incredible. And you're about to ask me something.
Yeah. Kathy, do you have a question?
No. I'm just fascinated. I want to know more about Phil. Anyway, but
girl, yeah, nothing happened.
I get involved in the stories. It's so great.
She was just the hostess. I was too nervous to ask anything. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is the guy that's too nervous to ask a girl what she thinks, and he's driving around the country.
Right?
Man. All right, so let me make sure I'm understanding you here, right? So again, as a parent, I'm hearing you and I'm going, all right, my son moved to Austin, he doesn't have or I guess he had a job. So
I did have a job. I had
earning income
at that point. And it was pretty good. The Praxis business partners, you make like $2,500 a month.
Okay, so you're earning good money.
Yeah.
You're earning good money, you're living out of your van. You now start to realize you can move around as long as you have an internet connection. That sounds very similar to what we just went through over the last year. And you start now exploring. You still have your connections with the Praxis network.
No. So I'm still a praxis participant. Like I'm going through the program. So the apprenticeship is a 6-month thing, and like 98% of cases turns into that person working at that company. Now for me, I ended up realizing that sales is not for me at all, and that's what I was saying. But or at least sales in that context wasn't for me, because now I'm doing my own thing. But like, yeah. So I was. Go ahead.
Well, no, like, how is it different than college? Like if I was to meet a family and they've got an entrepreneurial 17-year-old, and I'm saying, well, you don't need to go to college, you can just go to praxis.
Yeah,
like
that's what I tell people to do.
How would that for the parent?
Say it one more time.
How is it different than like a college experience?
Oh, for praxis, it's literally like you actually learn things that companies want to have. Yeah, you learn valuable things that companies actually care about. The experience feels like it's just extraordinary quantities of incredibly intelligent and open-minded young people. Different from college, so you don't get the in-person experience, which I did grieve. Although now I realize I don't even know if there's anything to grieve. But like, I do feel like
it's all online. Praxis is all online.
Yeah, well, it's all online, and then you go to the thing. But like me and the praxis people I met, we would do the Zoom meetings where it would be like 20 of us, and then it would go to like 5 in the morning, and it was like my closest friends. And then we would all we started all going to the same conventions. We'd all meet in person. It was like the most incredible euphoria. To this day, I look back on those times and there's like this magic to it, because we were like groundbreaking. Now praxis is growing a little bit. I was part of the first 100 participants ever of this program that's trying to like praxis's mission is to prove that you don't have to go to college and you can still have a happy, successful life. That's why praxis exists. Isaac Morehouse is the CEO. He's an incredible person. And yeah, write him down. Isaac Morehouse and TK Coleman and a bunch of other people that were just really amazing humans. And the experience is like, you don't get the quote unquote college experience. There's no like degree. There's no like, oh, like you are welcome to, there's none of that. It's literally like, and then like throughout the experience, there would be like calls like multiple times a week, or it would be like, they would bring in like a business owner, like an entrepreneur, sometimes like pretty substantial startup like founders. And they would come in and then they would do like, we would do like Zoom, basically like live podcasting almost, but we all get to ask questions, and there'd be like a 3 to 4 hour long, just like deep dive conversation with this badass that they'd bring in. And that was like multiple times a week, and we'd have other activities, and it's really cool. Then we started meeting in person though, because we were all moving to the same cities. And so now it's like adulting, but college. Like I would really have friends that were like going out to the parks in Austin with, and we're like doing things and driving around and having all these experiences. And like, so maybe we're not like in college, but we're literally like, we have money and I'm traveling. And anyway, so yeah, then I was out there. I'm going to speed that part up. Out there in my van, and I realized how much I loved traveling so much. And then I realized at the time, it had been a while, and I realized I didn't really want to be doing the sales job. Now that wasn't praxis's fault. Like I just had this thing of like, I just wanted to get out of the house, and then maybe I could have been a little more considerate, and like, I wanted to be a video editor at the time. So I ended up leaving my company, and I just started traveling. And I had like like literally living in a van is like $300 a month. And I had made like, $2 grand, I'd had like $2 or $3 or $4 grand or something. And so I just started traveling in my van, and I just like went to New Mexico, and then I went to Colorado, and I was in Arizona. And then then I stayed in Arizona for a bit. And then I had this opportunity to start doing some photography and video editing in Florida and other parts of the country. So then I went on my real adventure. Like when you're from the West Coast, and then for the first time, like driving at 17 to the East Coast, like and through the South. And if you've been through like the rural deep South, like I grew up in the desert. And so then I started driving, and it was like midnight, and I see these like, I'm like in like rural Mississippi, and the trees are like growing over, and like there's so much humidity that it's like foggy through the street lamps. I remember seeing these barrels with fire and all, like that whole vibe of the South. And I was like, wow, this is wild. And I was in an alien planet. And I went to Tennessee, and I was just by myself. I would go to Tennessee, and I went and drove off in these rural places and just found like nature spots. I would just go sit, I like showered under a waterfall, and I'll go out all these stories. But basically right. the next.
Hold on. Just for our listeners.
Yeah.
Tennessee is not another country.
No.
It's not another planet. Just
Oh yeah. Yeah.
To a 17-year-old coming from the West Coast, then yeah. So, but I want to pause you because I keep wanting to ask the question, what were you learning during this time?
Oh man.
Go on.
What was he learning?
Yeah. A couple things. I want to get specific for you. The first thing coming to mind is like how to be. I don't know. I'm gonna think a little more about that. Like
So let me interrupt. As
I was learning that I could. I was learning that it was all real and possible. Like it wasn't just theory at this point. I was learning, my own independence, but I was already sort of convinced of that for some reason. But I was learning. I guess I imagine I was learning to a degree that I could literally do anything. I was learning to be okay with myself. I was learning to be okay being alone, and I was learning to be okay being on my own, which I'm learning, I think, is what many young people are afraid of, and why they're afraid of not going to college and why they're afraid of leaving college is because the idea, it's like this ominous being on your own. It seems so scary. And I think I was learning that that was not scary, and it was actually awesome and better than anything I'd ever experienced.
All right, dude. That's just fantastic to hear, right? So
that's what you want. That's exactly what your listeners should hear too. It's better. It's so much better.
Right. That's the idea. So no, you didn't get the traditional college experience because you were learning something that's not possible to learn in college, which is to really be you, right? Who you are, how you can live on your own, how you can make things work. Again, what everyone has told me, and I'm only now realizing this, is travel is the best form of learning. Every single day, it's problem solving, it's learning
constantly.
It's discovery, right? And that's what you were doing for some months, or sounds like at least
about almost a year, like 6 months to a year. For my van adventures.
I really believe you have to be so open because you're going into a different culture. You don't know what people are thinking, and you have to have this whole new mindset of sort of understanding how to navigate territory.
So I'm going to fast forward really quick because then I will talk about my international travel. So like I ended up going to Florida and I explored all the East Coast. I lived in a bunch of places throughout the US. Sometimes I stayed in my van for a place for a month, sometimes longer, all kinds of misadventures in my van. And at the time I was making money because I wanted to be a video editor. And so I basically taught myself how to be a video editor and make money. And I got my first video editing client, this will be good for your listeners, by this thing called the Seasteading Institute, which is a nonprofit dedicated to building floating cities on the ocean. It's awesome. And I literally just made them a marketing video. Like I just made it for them. I did like animation and stuff. And I sent it to them and I said, hello, I made you this. It's yours for free. If you would like more, please talk to me. And then they did. And then I was making a bunch of money from video editing. It's that easy. It's that easy to make money. It's that easy to find clients.
No, that's not possible because you have to go to school for 4 years and get a degree in marketing before you can apply. And then you need to fill out an application.
Yep. I didn't even fill out the application. Yeah, I think all that too. I didn't even, none of that. Just bypass all of that. I emailed the president of the thing, Joe Quirk, who's a very good friend of mine now. And they ended up flying me out to San Francisco and all this other stuff. But like, that wasn't employing too. That was like contracting. And from then I've hardly ever been employed. And so.
That brings me to that point of relationships people that you've met along the way that could have maybe propelled you further along your chosen trajectory. Can you talk about that for a minute or two?
Yeah. TK Coleman and Isaac Morehouse, the founders of Praxis. So much inspiration for me from them. So many of the people I met through Praxis, like I was really going through a hard time for a while because of some of that breakup and other stuff I told you guys about, my trauma that I wasn't unresolved and all kinds. And like, that's such a valuable question because I underestimate how much I've created so many beautiful relationships. And I think I've able to do that. Ooh, now I see why you asked this question. I've been able to do that even though I wasn't in college. I think that's another thing. People are afraid they're going to be alone. I've not been alone. I've met so many characters and people that I never would have met had I gone to college. And maybe I'm sure I would have built community in college, but yeah, I have had an extraordinary community through Praxis. And then after Praxis through like I've just met so many people. And that's what we'll get to next. So I ended up moving to Detroit because I got a video editing job. And then in Detroit winter, that company ended up closing down. And then I ended up crashing my van into a tree at like 45 miles an hour because it was January 1st. And I grew up in Arizona. And I thought I'd catch a drift on this cool ice. Now, only recently have I admitted to myself that I was intentionally trying to catch a drift. At the time, I said it was an accident. But I thought I was going to have fun on the ice. And then the car just kept going straight and didn't turn.
Southerners, you don't know how to drive in cold.
Yeah, man. Where are you from?
Missouri, and then went to grad school in Minneapolis.
Oh, wow.
And then worked in Boston. So
yeah,
no snow, dude.
Yep. So that was done. And so I ended up calling a friend who let me stay at their house for a little bit. And I was like, well, I want to keep traveling. So I ended up literally taking I went back to Arizona for like a couple weeks. And then I ended up taking everything I owned and stripping everything away so that I only lived in a black backpack, and everything I owned fit in this black backpack that I had. And I bought a one-way ticket to Guatemala City with no plan at all. Now, the reason Guatemala is because the founder and CEO of the company I worked in Austin that Praxis got me, that company, he was from Guatemala. And I always knew I wanted to travel internationally. And I just remembered from like 2 years or like a year earlier, he was like, you must go at some point. And I was like, well, I guess this is where I start. And so then I'm 18. And I'm 18 and I land in Guatemala City. You're so right. Asking about the parents. My mom, like, I've talked to her now. She was so worried about me, but she knew that, like, she is so brilliant. My mom knew that her supporting me, it's not even supporting, but she knew that her, like, not disagreeing with my decisions and sending me support and love no matter what would be more impactful than her disagreeing with me, because she knew I was going to do what I wanted anyway. So she might as well be on my team. And we had a lot of conflict as a kid, but once I moved out, she really was able to support me, because then she didn't have to parent me anymore. And so it's not like she supported me, like calling me, like there were times we wouldn't talk for even like over a month, but I felt this, you know what I mean? The absence of not support is support in a way, right, when there's love. And so that's a cool quote. Wow, that's true.
Yeah.
And so, and now the reason I brought this up is because, and then I'm almost to like, I mean, there's so many other pit stops, but I'm moving the story pretty quick. I got to Guatemala City and I ended up just going to this hostel. And over the course of the next I lived in Guatemala for like months. And I ended up going and having all kinds of adventures, as you can imagine. I hiked a volcano and I watched a volcano erupt. I've seen like crazy. And I met here's the cool thing is, and this is why actually I'm feeling the longing for some of that international travel now. In these hostels, I met so many people. Like my very first night there were these 4 girls that were all like 18 and 19. They were all deaf, no hearing at all, and mute. And they were traveling through Central America together, using their phones to bring it up and show like the taxi drivers. Young girls from America just doing this. Not going to college. They weren't going to college. Crazy. And I met so many people like that. I have so many treasured friends. And I ended up moving to this hostel, and it was like a hotel. It was called Utopia Sanctuary. And it's a place that's on a cacao farm. So it's where they grow chocolate. Yeah. And I literally ended up living there for like 3 months. And the arrangement is, and anyone can do this. If you go to workaway.info, it's Workaway. It's Workaway. It's a company. People who own hostels, schools, restaurants in other countries will say, hey, come and do work for us and we'll give you free room and board. So I lived there for 3 months working at this like hostel, like behind the bar, and like making beds and and I gave chocolate tours on the cacao farm. And then they gave me, I got to stay there for free. And during that 3 months, I was 7 hours on a dirt road from anything. We had like you had to walk up a hill for like half a mile to get to Wi-Fi. I never used it. I just lived in the jungle for like months and just ate chocolate all the time because we made it. Like, I made it raw. And so that's important too, because you asked about the relationships. While I was there, the other volunteers that were there and these old Mayan ladies that like were in their kitchen, and all the different travelers that would come and go. I remember sitting there thinking like, part of me thinks I might be missing out on like college experience, but like, this is probably better. Like I'm sitting there and I'm meeting new people because it's travel. So these backpackers are coming in and out and in and out and in and out, for people who don't know how like backpacking works. And like I met so many people, and I did. I was I was younger than most travelers, and so like I always wanted like romance and things. I never had anything, but I did make out with one Italian girl in the hostel once. It was incredible. It was awesome. And so like
Well,
because even people are wanting that out of college. Like, how am I going to date? How am I going to do romantic things and stuff? Like, I totally was having because they were moving around so much. I didn't have any like long-term things while traveling, but I did have like really meaningful interactions with people that I could be romantically interested in if it was longer term. Like, I had that experience too.
Right. And then there's also the Guatemalan grandmothers that you were working with too. So you had opportunities.
Definitely.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, just saying. I mean, they flirted with all of us constantly. They taught me they taught us how to say vagina and penis in Quechua, which is an ancient Mayan language. And they
hugely important. That's important learning there. Right there.
That's why I didn't go to college, but I learned how to say that in Quechua. So
good.
I don't know I might not know exactly how to use the specifics of Google Sheets, but I do know how to say vagina in Quechua. I can't remember actually. So
that's right.
I want to bring out one point here. Like in college, the people are sort of mastering disciplines. I'm sorry, I don't mean to change the subject.
Please do. I would like to.
And I'm just thinking of the wisdom gathering. Like I'm listening to your journeys and what like wisdom and street smarts and all that other stuff about humans, right? Are you getting from having such a varied and interesting experiential journey through the world?
Yeah, yes, that's a great question. Because that's when you asked me what I learned, I was trying to articulate, like, truly, it's the wisdom. I think I learned how much I can love life. Because I was still like, there were times I was depressed, mentally ill, etc., that I was like, as humans do. But I learned, I think, how good it can get. Yeah, there's so much more wisdom. Like, I could put it into words. It's just, I could get pretty hippie on us. Like, I love everything. It really is about love and just like, I'm learning like throughout all of this. So that's why I mentioned even the thing with the breakup with the girl and like my personal development journey. Throughout all of this time, I feel like the journey that was happening inside me was much more significant than the external journey, like substantially more. Like I was very insecure and in pain and struggling and all kinds of things when I started. And now I feel like I still got a couple things, but I feel like I have one of the most like authentically high self-esteems of anyone I know, starting to. And that wouldn't have happened if I went to college.
Right.
So the wisdom is like, I love myself, truly. And I have some insecurities and things, but like I fundamentally know that I am a deeply beautiful person. And especially as of recently, like the last year, I get to accept that from others, and I can feel that and not resist that when other people see that in me. Anybody can have that experience. It does not make me special. And that's wisdom from all of this. Like, just because like you asked me, like, the amount of problems you have to solve, right? The amount of experiences, the amount of humans I've had to deal with, the amount of relationships. Like, I've been romantic with like pretty serious, like four people in this time. And it was like, there's a lot to learn there. And like all this stuff, it's just, there's something I'm gonna tell you about the wisdom real quick.
Yeah, hit me.
It doesn't, like, it's so amazing to me because I'm so normalized. It's so of such little consequence if you go to college. It's so nothing. It's like the most, I know you love that your listeners are hearing this. It's nothing. It means nothing. And I'm saying most things mean nothing in a good way. Like, it doesn't matter. I think that's really a lot of what I've learned is like, I've had all these experiences and then time comes and time goes. And then I have happiness and good times and hard times and whatever. And it's like, at the end of it, here I am. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Ask me whatever you're gonna ask me. It just doesn't matter.
I know some of this is hard to put into words, but what I'm hearing again is, as a dad, I'm hearing a young man who, were you my son, I would really be encouraged about the agency and the autonomy that you have developed. And again, my major concern, I've been super involved with education for 20 plus years. And my major concern is that the educational structures do not do either. They don't create highly autonomous learners and who have the agency, the competence to do anything. And that's what, more than anything, what I want in my kids, to know
do anything. Yeah, people can't. Yeah.
Nothing holds them back, right? Not race, not
nothing.
gender.
It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I'm hearing from you, and I'm really digging this. I want to be sensitive to time. We've got 20 minutes left.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and yeah, so we can like, honestly, my story, if we want to just leave it there and say basically, like, if we want to talk about the concepts more, I can give like a 30-second like, since Guatemala, if then you want to like dive more into these ideas, because I don't want to spend all the time on the story.
Do that.
Cool. So then after Guatemala, I ended up traveling through Mexico and having all kinds of adventures. I had many very spiritual experiences. I went through, and then I ended up going back home and back to the US, and I've had many just very spiritual experience of life. I mean meditation, spirituality, that whole world of things. I went to Burning Man. I lived in South Carolina, and then I lived in North Carolina, and I had all kinds of, this was like this sort of spiritual embodiment of my life. And I learned that music is like the most important thing to me in the world, all kinds of things since I got back to the US. Then I got this intuition that I was supposed to move back to Austin and create my company, The Gift, which I don't even need to talk about very much right now. But I'm going to speak to that idea really quickly, because my company, The Gift, is literally about celebrating the human experience. So I mentioned earlier, I create like events for people who are kind of quote unquote awake to be able to celebrate in like a very sober and beautifully meaningful way. I'm not going to go very far into that. The reason I'm going to talk about it for a second is because I have found the most profound sense of purpose. I think people feel that from me when I'm speaking, even when I'm not talking about The Gift. And regardless, I don't know if it's just, I can't say for certain if it's divinely ordained or if it's just chance I'm on a rock and this is what feels good. But I feel so grateful and fulfilled to be existing on this planet with a sense of, wow, I care a lot about this thing that like drives me. That's what everyone wants. That's what college people want. That's people are going to college hoping to find. And I had a purpose before when I was enjoying traveling and stuff. But now I have like this real, like I breathe this, like it's for the rest of my life, maybe. I don't know. Could be 10 years and then I find something else. But I just wanted to say that I think I have about more sense of purpose than almost any person I've ever met with this. I would not have found that in college. This purpose with The Gift, with my company, this would not be here if I had gone to college. So I just wanted to say that part. And yeah, the sense of purpose that everyone wants. And the mission, right? I wouldn't have this if I went to college. No chance.
So just briefly,
yeah, sorry.
No, the author, I can't remember the author's name. That's okay. Describe an author who I really respect and I can't remember his name, but he talks about when a person lacks purpose, they will seek entertainment to fill their lives.
Yeah.
Right. And so college, there's a ton of entertainment in college, but there's very little purpose. A job isn't purpose. A career is not purpose.
No.
Doing something that is unique to you, that changes the world in some way, that's purpose.
Yep.
And again, that's something that really you have to find it. No one can give it to you. No one can tell it to you.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's easier to find. I don't think it's easier to find people think, because we like mystify it. If you really, they say it's just like following what's interesting. Like if I often ask people, this is how I found my purpose. Is like a meditation. I was in a very, very, very peak state of like a meditative experience. And I just asked myself, if I had absolute 100% agency over every part of my human experience, what would I do? And here's the key. Then someone says, I don't know. It's like, okay, well, if I had agency over what would feel appealing? Like if I could literally just pick what would be the thing that I would want to be the desire, and you still might not know, but it's like, I would pick to know. And then you have a sense of purpose, to find the purpose. That can be the purpose. Like it's really not that hard. It can just be like, if I were free, what would I do?
Yeah, freedom, right?
That's what my whole life's about, freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Yeah, and this is I think I feel the same way. Like, and this is why I feel so compelled to get people who are stuck in a system outside, so they can actually get that sense of freedom, so they can explore and find that, and not be subjected to, you know, structures and the conditioning of society that makes people feel like they have to go in a certain direction when they really don't, but they just choose.
Yeah.
It seems that they choose not to have freedom.
I'm noticing in this moment, like, the delight of freedom. It's a wonderful thing. I know that all the time. I'm just like even more aware. It's the way. Go ahead.
This is interesting, Kath. I don't know if you recall, but a couple of interviews ago, this issue of freedom came up again, and that is, I think it was Mikey that mentioned that, like, what all humans, what all mammalian, you know, creatures want is for their progeny to be free, and freedom really is what you're describing, Jackson.
Progeny, does that mean children, like offspring?
Yeah,
I think so.
Like, you're saying you want the offspring to be free. Wow.
and even like to take
And
it
so
one
many
step-
parents, so many parents think that sending their kid to college is the way to give them freedom, but it's not at all.
No, and I had a professor at
prison.
university, who said that. And she actually, she was really into Krishnamurti's work, who's all about conditioning and unlocking us from, you know, the cages that we're in that we don't even see. And he wrote a book called Freedom from the Known, and that is also so interesting, because I like that you went out into the complete unknown, and that's where you found your purpose, right? Because you had, right?
Yeah, it's totally true. I had no, dude.
Yeah.
Like, my company is like, I create like beautiful, like, conscious dance events. Like, when I first left home, I was like, I was like the kid at the edge of the dance floor. I never could have figured that out. That was what I was going to be doing with my time. Like, no chance. The decision could not have been made at 18. This is what I'm gonna do with my life. It couldn't have happened. That's why Isaac from Praxis says, like, just try. And that seems so scary. Like, the reason it seems scary is because they're conditioned that if you try something, you're choosing it forever. But I think the shift is realizing you can try something, and then if you don't like it, you can stop. And you can try something else.
Maybe we need to create systems in this country where it's free to try. And it is actually free to try, right?
Well, we don't have to get rid of the, it's already there.
It's so expensive. So if you've done 2 years of college and you've had this crazy bill or debt from being in college, you can't go back, and your parents have struggled to actually get you there. You can't turn around after 2 years and say, hey, I made a mistake, right? So
if there are parents, I don't know if there's parents listening or whatever, like, yo, if I had, no, my parents didn't do any kind of saving for college or whatever for me, but like, I know people, it's like, there's like an $80,000 bank account or something waiting for them to go to college. If I've been given,
you could do with that,
if that could, but I could have done with that. Like, maybe not even, they could have waited till I had found my company now or something. Like, first, like, I just, like, I literally have tears in my eyes. Like, that just goes to nothing. Like, it's just so much potential money, and it's just gone.
Yeah,
it's just gone.
Exploration. That's what
it's crazy.
The kids need exploration possibilities, right? This is what I'm seeing. They need to be brave like you, right? And I think you develop that confidence by being brave.
Well, what I've always finding interesting is sometimes I wonder where my confidence and, like, my drive, et cetera, came from, because I want to find out, like, how can you be a really beautifully good parent and also have independence? I think that's the best parent, is that which can do that, because a lot of my level of independence came from, like, trauma and negligence. Like, I had to, but I don't want to, like, traumatize my children so that they have an incentive to be better or whatever. So I think that if you look into, like, people who parent with freedom, like, I have a really good friend, Caitlin. She's as free as I am internally, but she had incredible parents because they gave her that freedom. So it's like, some people say, oh, you have to go through to learn lessons. I don't think that's true. I think that people can become a deeply actualized, embodied, like, free self while also having parents that love and support them very, very deeply. Of course, like, I'd be freer if I had like a really supportive home life growing up. Of course.
So that's something that we don't have time to talk more about today,
Of course.
because I'd like to learn more about kind of how you took these experiences and how this lack of fear, or maybe a willingness to confront fear and to deal with it, how that continues to help you. But real quick on this issue of freedom, and again, Mikey mentioned this in a couple interviews a couple weeks ago, but freedom must be linked with responsibility, or you create a dependent individual. And so there's something there that we should talk about. Like, for example, freedom is, you can go out and do whatever you want. I'll pay for your food. I'll pay for your car. If you want to,
I don't know if that's freedom.
Fly to Mexico, I'll pay for your, that's dependence.
Yeah, it's less free in a way.
Right. So anyway, just to clarify that issue. So help me understand a bit more in the last maybe 5 minutes, and then we've got Kath and I have a question we want to ask you, but help us understand how you manufactured work opportunities in a way that, again, tell us more about that.
It's so simple. And Praxis taught me all. This is all Praxis that I learned through my own experience. It's so, and then like I mentioned to you guys, I have some other gigs that I work on now alongside my own company. Like, it's the only thing, like, put yourself in the position of a business owner. The only thing you care about is, can this person create value for this company? So the goal and the task of the prospect applicant is to demonstrate that I can create value for you. And this part really scares college students when you say these words, and it used to scare me. What you really are trying to convey is, I can create more value for you than you will pay me when I create it.
Right.
That really is what it means to have a business, and to be like, it literally is like, the value that I give you will be at least a little bit more, so that way it makes sense for you. Even if it's a $40,000 salary or a $120,000 salary or whatever. And so, but it's not that hard. So the way the manufacturing of the opportunities, the nuts and bolts of it are very simple.
Give me an example.
Yeah, the method is this. You reach out, you research a company, and you find out, like, you look around and you think, what could be improved about their thing? Is it their email marketing could have better graphic design? Or is it that they could have a better website? Or is it that they maybe need better photography, or whatever it is? Or could it be that you can tell that maybe their customer service is actually pretty poor? Like, you try calling and seeing how it is. Whatever it is, you figure out, how could this be done different? How could this be done better? And then you make it, whatever it is. Like, literally demonstrate your ability to create the value. So you can literally, like, it could be a little thing. Like, what if you just say, hey, it doesn't always have to be fully making it. Then you find, like, the CEO's email, or someone very high up in the company, and you write an email, and you're like, hey, I've looked at your company, and I found this thing that I've noticed I think could use some improvement. I have created the plan to improve this. Here's the plan. I would love for you to hire me, and I will enact this plan, and I will make this part of your company better than it is now. And then you sign it. That alone, you don't even, like, with the Seasteading Institute, I mentioned, I actually made the thing. And then I said, here's this. But you don't even have to do that. Just saying, here's my plan, here's what I'll do on day one when you hire me. I literally have seen Praxis kids do this. 1,000 college applicants. It's not even close. The CEO is like, please come and work for us, because I'm not a big CEO, but I know these guys. They're like, and like these people who are in charge of these companies. They're like, I get college applications from people who have no job skills at all every single day. They're like, when one person just even demonstrates initiative,
right?
Like, because the applications don't even let you write a letter. It's just like so dumb. And so anyway, yeah, the formula is research the company, find an area of improvement, make a little plan of improvement, send it to them. And optimally, if you do have a way to demonstrate you can actually enact the plan by like with the, I made a little video in advance.
Sure. That
would really help, because then you can say, like, you know, I can do this, and they can see it. Here's one other little tip, because I know we're like, if you don't this is how I started. If you don't necessarily have a body of work to demonstrate you can actually do it, but you think you might be able to, whether it's marketing or whatever, social media, anything. You offer free work for a short period. Hey, I have this plan to improve this part of the thing. I think this would be really helpful if I did this role. I would love to come and work for you for 2 weeks at no charge. And if at the end of that 2 weeks you feel like it's worth your money, we talk about you hiring me. What person says no to that? Like it works every single time. And there's like some self-esteem issues everyone has. We're like, oh, well, how can I create value? And that is why we really realize that most of college is about just coddling people's self-esteem issues. Because then they're like, I don't know how to create value. And then you actually have to start facing yourself and asking, like, what can I do? What value can I create? And at first it's scary, but what most praxis kids find is when you finally actually start asking the question, there are answers, and everyone's self-esteem like skyrockets. It's like, wait, maybe I actually could. Like maybe I could write a better Twitter post than their current social media person is. Maybe I could learn how to do Facebook marketing ads with like a YouTube course that's free, and then I could do that. Like it's not as scary as it sounds. I know your people are loving hearing this. This is exactly what you want. Like go ahead.
No, dude.
Also, I'm fine to go over if you guys are. I don't know how your schedule works. I'm okay with it.
We want to be, so we will definitely have you back on, because I'd like to unpack this issue much more in detail, because again, most parents, the calculation they're making is, if I pay this money for college, I'm going to improve my kids' chances at getting a return on that investment. And you're pointing out,
and we need to go into all that more. Yeah.
Bingo. And that's something we already know. And it's becoming so painfully obvious with the different companies that are becoming public about saying, we don't care if you have a college degree. Google, right? We don't care if you have a college degree.
Yeah.
Can you help
Elon
us?
Musk says, I don't even care if you have a diploma, high school diploma.
Right.
It don't matter. Yeah.
Let's just you're 22.
Yeah.
Just 22, right?
As of last 2 weeks, like a week and a half ago. Yeah.
Right. And you've got all these mad skills, right?
All of my friends graduated college last week. By the way, last week was everything I just told you. All my friends just graduated college. They've been in the same place all this time, just to give some. Yeah. Wow. Continue though. Sorry. Yeah.
And you've got your own company, right? You've traveled the world. You know that you're going to be fine. If someone just spat you out somewhere on the planet, and you've got no idea where you were, you would be fine.
Yes.
Right.
If I had nothing, $10, my new name, new identity. Yeah, totally fine.
So you'd probably embrace the challenge, right?
That'd be fun.
And you are so self-actualized. You know exactly who you are, and you've got it sounds like you got maximal agency. Like you seem happy. I don't know if any of those girl relationship things.
I'm still a human. I suffer, but I am happy. I think that would be an accurate statement. Yeah.
All right, we've got 2 minutes left. We're gonna do a quick lightning round. Kath, do you want to start with the question, or would you like me to start?
Well, my question is, okay. If schools didn't exist, okay, right? What kind of things would you want to have in society that you could meet and learn and develop these relationships, or maybe you think they're just not necessary?
If schools didn't exist, yeah, I don't think schools are necessary at all. First, I'll just say that. But alternatives could be, I think that if college didn't happen, you probably would start to see actually a lot more like what I would call community centers, or like places of celebration, or like parks would start to have like events. So I think we start to see a lot of events in the world. Like I would love to have kind of like meetup times, like glorified, where like literally any interest anyone has, you can go. I'll just answer the question with one sentence. I'm a DJ now. I'm starting here in Austin a weekly Austin DJs mastermind, where all of the people who have an interest of this are going to come together, and just like Montessori, the guys that have been doing it for 30 years are going to be in the same room as the people who are just started a year ago, and we're all just going to bring our problems, and everyone gets like 10 minutes to like mastermind like what they're trying to learn, and they get the whole group. So that's
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
My answer to that one.
And really, you don't need to answer my question, because my question was close enough to Kath's that.
What was it? I want to know anyway.
What's one thing that you would change about school, and you just answered it?
Oh, I would burn it to the ground. Honestly, yeah. As aggressive as that is, yeah.
Yes, that's a little aggressive, but that's okay.
Yeah,
it means you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we are out of time. Jackson Sullivan, I want to thank you for being a part of When School's Not Working tonight. This has been a fantastic conversation. Kath, can we have him back? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I could keep the conversation going, and I'd love you to come and talk to, our teams who are just sort of starting on their independent learning journeys now about what is actually possible. So I, definitely want you to come and be a voice for them.
Yeah,
so that it's super exciting about that. I've got a couple of DJs that might want to join you in Austin as well. So.
Well, there we go. Yeah. Yes, I'm thrilled to come back again. And even outside of podcasts, I'm excited to talk to all y'all more.
Awesome. Awesome. Next time I'm in Austin, man, we're going to get together. All right.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Cool.
Thanks
for watching When School's Not Working. I'm Matt Barnes, and for Kath Fraise and Michael Strong, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
See you.
Cool.